My uncle's car pulling up to the office, snapping me out of it. Uncle Ned asked if everything went alright as I blew past him towards the front gate. I shouted back that nothing happened and I'd see him later. And on the way home, I was on edge. My eyes scanning the road for either the green Chevy or the black minivan. Every oncoming car caused me to run off the shoulder and hide and wait for the vehicle to pass before I'd walk again. What should have been a 25-minute stroll took nearly an hour. When I finally made it home, my mother wanted to know what was wrong. There was no hiding the pale shock on my face. I told her it was nothing, just the lack of sleep, and I let my bed swallow me up when I got to my room. The alarm woke me up. Somehow I was able to grab a few hours of sleep before I was to head out to my teaching job. My brother texted me that he was outside and ready to drive me to the center. I scarfed down a banana and was about to walk out the front door when I caught a view of our driveway. There was a black minivan sitting in it, the undamaged one I was driving the previous night. I stopped and went to the front bay window, and I peeked out through the blinds. My brother's car was on the street waiting for me, and the minivan was in the driveway. I took a step back, blinked a few times, trying to clear away any insanity that might have crept into my mind. Before looking out the window again, I texted my brother, and I asked him if there was a van in our driveway. He texted back that I should stop messing around if I didn't want to be late. I stepped to the window and glanced out again. The red-haired woman had her face pressed into the window, her eyes black orbs as she stared at me. Just then I got another text message. It read, "We'll take you there." The phone dropped from my hands. There was the sound of another text, and I picked up the phone, terrified at what it might read. But it was only my brother giving me a final warning. I texted him that I wasn't feeling great, and that I was going to miss doing my community service that day. And I heard him pull from the curb. When I looked out the front window, the van was gone too. I went back to bed, but I couldn't sleep. I got that urge again. This strange urge that I needed to see one of the debtors. And I can't explain it, but it was useless to fight that urge. Something was compelling me to go back to the junkyard. Some unseen force wanted me inside those cars. Why? I didn't know. The only thing I did know was that I couldn't fight that desire to be inside the debtors again. I didn't remember leaving my house and walking along the highway to my uncle's place when he let me into the gate. He was a bit touchy. My uncle wanted to know why the rocking chair was in the middle of the debtors. I just told him it wasn't me, which just made him angrier. I mean, it couldn't have been anyone else. Remember the rules, he said. I just shrugged it off, and I said I'd keep an eye out for thieves that night. Uncle Ned issued a final warning to do just what he was paying me for and nothing else, and then he was gone. I left Rascal at the office porch. He was curled up near the rocking chair. Sitting on the dirt in the middle of the debtors, I set my sights on the blue Mazda, the car that had first caught my eye. The one with the ghostly woman's face that stared at me the first day. The door swung open, and I heard Rascal whine. I lowered my head, and I crouched into the blue car, the one with the hole in the windshield. The door closed with a loud bang. I looked around the interior. There was no real damage. The airbag had gone off, and all the glass on the dashboard gauges were shattered, but otherwise the car didn't look like it was in a fatal accident. My hands rested on the steering wheel, fingers curled around it. A curtain of black rolled down all around me, and then I was driving in the dark. It was nighttime. I was on a back road. It could have been anywhere within 500 miles. There were no signs, buildings, or highway markers. It was a 2-lane country road cutting across a patch of nowhere in particular. There weren't any streetlights. The only light was from one of my front headlights. I stared into the rearview mirror to see my face. It was the one I saw in the back window when I was walking away from the debtors the first day on the job. But this time I wasn't a corpse. Instead, I was a vibrant 20-something with blonde hair and pale blue eyes. A small stuffed unicorn hung from the mirror. The radio was on. The song was some country-sounding dude singing about lost love. There was no rain. I wasn't speaking. And for a moment, everything seemed just fine. And then the Mazda's headlights caught something up ahead on the right side of the road. There was a white car, a small coupe with its hood up. I felt myself touching on the brake, slowly pulling behind the broken-down vehicle. And then something strange happened. A new twist in the debtor experience. I, or she, we both left the car. Now standing, we looked around, poked our head into the car. There was no one there. And then I heard the blonde driver scream out if anyone needed some help. And there was no reply. And then we took out our phone, took a picture of the car and its license plate. I was back behind the wheel, key into ignition. We pulled away from the white car. She was about to snap in the seatbelt when she took one last glimpse of the broken-down coupe in the rearview mirror. But instead of the car, we saw someone sitting in the back seat. A man with a red ski mask on and wearing mirrored sunglasses. There was a scream. Her scream. And then I felt a leather belt around my neck and pulled tight. I couldn't breathe. The stiff leather cut into my skin. I had to let go of the steering wheel to try to slip my fingers underneath the belt and gain some space to suck in some air. The car meandered on the road, drifting left and right. My legs kicked out, smashing into the dashboard. My heels cracked the glass on the gauges. My eyes found the rearview